The alien colony was full of life, but one corner of it was always quiet. In that corner stood a small broken hut made of old metal sheets and cracked wood. Inside that hut lived the old man, a human, bent with age, his beard long and white, his back curved like a question mark. To most he was invisible. To some he was a joke. And to the children, he was only a shadow to throw stones at when the evenings grew boring. Every morning, when the alien sun rose in shades of green and gold, the old man came out of his hut. He carried a small tin bowl and a wooden stick he used as a cane. His steps were slow, dragging across the dusty streets of the colony. The merchants looked at him with narrowed eyes. Some turned their stalls away, hiding their food as if he were a thief. Others simply laughed and said, "Why do you still live, human?" "You are nothing here." The old man said nothing. He had not spoken much in years. His voice, once strong, was now soft and dry like a whisper carried by the wind. But deep in his eyes, if anyone ever dared to look closely, there was something unusual, something sharp, like a flame hidden under ashes. No one cared enough to see it. The children were the cruelest. They followed him through the streets, throwing pebbles at his back. "Old ghost," they shouted. "Go die in your hut." He never raised his hand against them. He simply kept walking, his face calm, though his heart carried scars heavier than any stone. At night, the old man sat by the single candle in his hut. He had no family, no friends. Sometimes he touched a piece of cloth folded in the corner, an old human uniform worn and torn, stained with time. When the candlelight touched it, the cloth seemed to whisper stories of battles, victories, and losses long forgotten. The old man closed his eyes and remembered voices. Friends who were gone, brothers who had fallen, a world that no longer cared for him. The colony did not want him. He was human, and humans were rare here. Some said they were cursed, some said they were weak, and others said they were too dangerous to trust. Whatever the reason, the old man was left alone to fade like dust in the wind. But then, strange things began to happen. At night, while the colony slept, he sometimes felt eyes on him. Once, while drinking water from a cracked clay jug, he saw a shadow at the edge of his hut. It was tall, feminine, and glowing faintly in the alien moonlight. When he turned his head, it was gone. Another time, he heard soft footsteps behind him as he walked home from the market. But when he stopped, the footsteps stopped too. The old man was not foolish. His instincts were sharp even after years of silence. He knew someone was watching him. But why? He had nothing, no wealth, no strength left, no power to attract attention. And yet the feeling grew stronger each night. One evening, as the alien sky turned dark purple and the twin moons rose, the old man left his hut to find scraps of food. His bowl was empty, his stomach weak, but his eyes were calm as always. He reached the market where vendors were packing up their stalls. He asked softly, "Please, a little bread." No one answered. A merchant pushed him away. Another spat near his feet. "Go starve, human. You are worthless." The crowd laughed, their voices echoing like knives in the air. The old man lowered his eyes, but before he could leave, something happened that silenced everyone. From the far side of the market, a figure stepped forward. She was tall, graceful, her skin faintly glowing in the moonlight. Her hair shimmered like silver strands, her eyes sharp yet filled with something no one else had ever shown him: interest. She walked straight toward the old man. The crowd parted, whispering in disbelief. Without saying a word, the alien woman reached into her cloak, pulled out a small loaf of bread, and placed it in the old man's bowl. The market froze. The children stopped laughing. The merchants stopped sneering. Every eye was fixed on the scene, for this woman was not ordinary. She was respected, powerful, and feared. Yet she had chosen to help the one no one cared for. The old man raised his eyes slowly and looked at her. For the first time in years, he felt warmth in his chest, but questions filled his mind. Why him? The alien woman gave him a look that was unreadable, half pity, half curiosity, and something deeper that no one else could see. Then without a word, she turned and disappeared into the night. The crowd erupted in whispers. Why did she do that? What did she want with him? The old man held the bread in his trembling hands. The weight of it felt heavier than any weapon he had ever carried. His heart beat faster. He knew this was not kindness. It was the beginning of something else. Something dangerous. Something that would change everything. And for the first time in many years, the forgotten old man did not feel forgotten anymore. The old man could not sleep that night. The bread still lay on the wooden table beside him, untouched, as if eating it would make the strange moment vanish. His mind kept replaying the scene in the market, the alien woman's silver hair glowing under the moons, her eyes looking into his like she saw something no one else dared to see. He had lived years in silence, years of being treated as nothing, and now in a single moment everything felt different. But he could not understand why. He whispered to himself in the dark, "Why me?" When the sun rose again, he walked out of his hut slowly, his cane tapping the ground. The colony streets were filled with whispers. Wherever he went, eyes followed him, not with the usual disgust, but with a strange unease. The merchants who once mocked him now stayed silent when he passed. The children who threw stones no longer dared to run close. Even the guards at the colony gates turned their heads and pretended not to stare. The old man had not changed, but one act by the alien woman had shifted the entire weight of how others looked at him. By the time he reached the market again, the place was alive with noise. The smell of roasted meat, alien fruits, and strange spices filled the air. Merchants shouted their prices, buyers argued loudly, but the moment he stepped into the square, the voices dimmed for a second, as if everyone was waiting for something. He kept his head low, clutching his empty bowl, pretending not to notice, but he could feel the weight of their stares pressing down on his back. Then it happened. The crowd parted once more, and she appeared again, the alien woman, dressed in a long dark cloak, her silver hair tied loosely, her eyes calm but sharp. The merchants fell quiet, as if even they feared her. She moved through the crowd with ease, every step graceful, and stopped in front of the old man for a moment. Silence stretched like a blade in the air. Then, without hesitation, she placed another piece of bread in his bowl. Just as she had done before, the crowd gasped. Voices rose in shock. Again, why him? What does she want with that useless human? The old man's hands trembled. He tried to speak. His lips moved, but no sound came out. At last he forced a broken whisper. Why are you doing this? The alien woman did not answer. She simply looked at him with those eyes that seemed to search deeper than the body, deeper than the scars of age, as if she wanted to see his soul itself. Then she leaned closer, her voice low enough that only he could hear. You are not what they think you are. The words struck him like lightning. His heart pounded, his mind raced. What did she mean? How could she know anything about him? She turned before he could ask, moving back into the crowd, vanishing just as quickly as she had appeared, leaving behind only questions and silence. The market exploded with voices. Merchants shouted, children whispered, some mocked him. Others looked fearful and some even angry. He is cursed. One alien cried, she is a fool to help him. Another spat. But there were also murmurs, softer voices that carried doubt. Maybe there is more to him. Maybe she sees something we do not. The old man felt the ground shift beneath him. The world he knew was changing and he could not control it. That night, when he returned to his hut, he did not light his candle. He sat in the darkness, staring at the 2 pieces of bread before him, his mind heavy with confusion. In the silence, he thought he heard again those same footsteps outside, slow, steady, watching. He rose carefully, opening the old wooden door. The night was empty, the streets quiet under the twin moons, but he knew deep in his bones that someone was still there, hidden in the shadows. And then the dreams began. When he finally fell asleep, he dreamed of battlefields long gone, of fire raining from the skies, of his younger self standing tall in armor, giving orders to soldiers who trusted him. He saw alien enemies falling before him. He saw the faces of men who had once followed him into the storm. He woke drenched in sweat, the echo of a woman's voice still in his ears, her voice repeating, "You are not what they think you are." The next morning, the colony buzzed louder than ever. Rumors spread like wildfire. Some said the alien woman was cursed for choosing him. Some said she was planning something dangerous. Others whispered that she had seen his past, that he was not just a forgotten old man, but something else, something powerful that even time could not erase. The old man walked through the colony and felt the world shifting around him. Every step carried weight. Every whisper carried his name. And for the first time in many years, he realized his life was no longer his own. Someone had chosen him, and that choice was about to drag him into a storm far greater than loneliness. The colony was not the same anymore. Whispers followed the old man wherever he walked. He could hear them even when people tried to hide their voices. Some pointed at him with fear, some with curiosity and others with anger. To them he had always been nothing, but now he had become a mystery. And mysteries were dangerous. Why does she care for him? One alien hissed as he passed. He is just a shadow. He has no worth, another replied. Yet a few voices were softer, trembling with unease. What if he is more than he seems? What if the woman sees something we cannot? The old man kept his eyes low, his cane tapping against the dusty streets. But inside his chest his heart was not calm. The alien woman's words still burned in his mind. You are not what they think you are. He had carried silence for many years, burying his past deep where no one could reach it. Yet somehow she had touched it with only a few words. How could she know unless she had seen the signs? That evening, when the moons rose high and the colony lanterns flickered in the wind, a knock echoed at his hut door. The old man froze. No one ever came to him. No one ever dared to step close to his forgotten corner. His wrinkled hand shook as he pulled the door open, and there she was. The alien woman, her silver hair flowing loose, her cloak wrapped tightly around her frame, her eyes sharp yet unreadable. She did not wait to be invited in. She stepped past him and entered, her presence filling the tiny space with an energy he had not felt in years. For a long moment, silence sat between them, the old man standing near the door, the woman standing near his table where the 2 pieces of bread still rested. Untouched, she looked at them, then at him, and spoke softly. You do not eat them, why? The old man's voice cracked as he answered. Because they are not food to me, they are questions. She tilted her head, her expression unreadable, and then said, Good. Then you are still the man I thought you were. He frowned, his heart beating faster. You speak as if you know me, but you do not. Her lips curved slightly, almost a smile, but not quite. I know enough, human. I know what you once were. Though these people do not. They laugh at you because they cannot see, but I have heard the whispers that never died. The old man's breath caught. He stepped closer. Whispers? What whispers? Her eyes locked on his, glowing faintly in the candlelight. That you were a commander once. That your kind fought wars that shook the stars. That you carried victories and losses no one else could bear. Some say you betrayed, others say you saved. But all agree on one thing. You were not ordinary. The old man closed his eyes, pain rushing through him like a storm. Memories he had buried clawed back, the sound of gunfire, the cries of men, the burning skies. He gripped the edge of the table to steady himself, his voice low. Those whispers should have stayed buried. There is nothing left of that man, only an old shadow. But she did not look away. Her gaze burned into him. I do not believe that, and neither do the enemies who still fear your name. The raiders who came last night, they looked at you, and they hesitated. I saw it in their eyes. They remembered something, even if this colony has forgotten. The old man trembled, his hands shaking. You do not know what you speak of. Woman, the past is heavy, heavier than you can imagine. But she stepped closer, her voice fierce. And yet you carry it still. I can see it in your eyes. You are not weak, you are only hiding. And I have chosen you because I cannot let that fire die. Outside, the colony streets buzzed with rumors. Some said the alien woman was plotting something with him. Some said she was cursed for standing by a human, and others whispered that perhaps destiny had wrapped itself around the forgotten man, pulling him back into the light. Children whispered his name with a strange mix of fear and wonder. Merchants told stories of a time when humans were feared warriors, and the guards at the gates tightened their watch, uncertain whether to see him as a threat or a shield. That night, when the woman finally left his hut, the old man sat alone, his chest heavy, her words refusing to leave his mind. He touched the old folded uniform in the corner, his fingers brushing over the torn cloth. For years it had been nothing more than a memory, but now it felt alive again. His eyes burned with unshed tears. He whispered to himself, I am no commander anymore. I am only a shadow, yet in his heart a question stirred, or am I? And as the moon shone cold light through the cracks of his hut, the whispers outside grew louder. Not whispers of mockery this time, but whispers of fear, suspicion, and curiosity. The colony no longer saw him as forgotten. They saw him as a puzzle, and puzzles always led to danger. The old man realized the days of silence were over. The past he had buried was rising, and the alien woman was the one pulling it out. The night fell heavy over the alien colony. The air was colder than usual, and a strange silence covered the streets. The old man sat inside his hut with his candle burning low, his eyes fixed on the folded uniform in the corner. The alien woman's words echoed in his ears again and again. You are not what they think you are. He wanted to push the thoughts away, yet something in the wind told him change was coming. something dark, something dangerous. Far beyond the colony walls, shadows moved. Raiders, ruthless scavengers of the outer worlds, crept closer, their ships hidden in the rocky hills, their eyes glowing under their helmets, their claws ready to tear through flesh and metal alike. They had heard whispers too, not of the colony, not of the woman, but of the human, the old ghost who still breathed where no human should. To them he was not forgotten. To them he was unfinished business. Inside the colony, the guards were half asleep, their spears leaning against the walls, their laughter careless. They did not see the danger, but the old man felt it. His instincts, once dulled by time, now sharpened. Every sound outside made his heart beat harder. Every flicker of shadow made his fingers twitch. He knew the signs of an attack. He had seen them too many times in his youth. He whispered to himself, "They are coming." And he was right. The first scream tore the silence apart as raiders leapt over the walls, their weapons flashing red. Flames burst across the market stalls. People ran in panic. Mothers pulled their children close. Merchants abandoned their goods. The colony became chaos in seconds. The guards fought but were unprepared. They fell quickly, and the raiders spread through the streets like fire through dry grass. The old man stepped out of his hut. His cane firm in his hand, he saw the flames, the screams, the blood, and for the first time in many years, he stood tall, his back straight, his eyes sharp. He was no longer just an old shadow. He was something more, something the raiders remembered. His presence in the street made a few of them pause, their claws tightening on their weapons, their movement slower, as if memory itself had chained their hands. The alien woman appeared through the smoke, her cloak torn, her blade dripping with blood. She fought fiercely, her silver hair glowing under the firelight, but she was surrounded. 3 raiders closed in on her, their laughter cruel. "Tonight we take the Queen's pride," one of them hissed. She raised her blade, but her arms trembled. She was strong, but even strength has limits when numbers overwhelm. The old man's heart pounded. He looked at her, then at the weapon lying beside a fallen guard, a long staff of steel, heavier than his frail arms should lift. Yet his hand moved without thought. His fingers wrapped around it, and to the shock of those who watched, he lifted it with ease. His old body shook, but his eyes burned. He stepped forward, his voice cutting through the fire and screams. "Leave her." The raiders froze, their laughter dying. For that voice was not the voice of a broken man. It was the voice of a commander, heavy with authority, sharp with command. They stared at him, their memories colliding with the present. Some of them had heard stories of humans, of battles lost to them, of leaders who never bent even when the skies burned. And now standing before them was one of those very men, alive. The alien woman's eyes widened as she looked at him, for in that moment she did not see an old man. She saw the fire of his past blazing through his wrinkles. She saw a leader, a warrior, a human who had once carried armies on his shoulders. He swung the staff, striking the first raider down. His movement fast, precise, not of age but of memory. The second fell with a blow to the chest, and the third stepped back in fear, unable to face what stood before him. The colony, hidden in smoke and fire, began to whisper again, but these whispers were not mocking this time. They were filled with shock, awe, and fear. "The old man fights," someone gasped. "He should not move like that," another cried. Children clung to their mothers. Guards stared with wide eyes. The forgotten human was forgotten no longer. He had revealed a piece of his past, and no one could deny it now. The raiders pulled back for the moment, regrouping in the shadows, but their eyes stayed locked on him. Their whispers carried across the flames. "It is him. It must be him. The ghost of the war." They had not come only for loot, they had come for him, the human who still lived when all others had vanished, and they would not leave without testing him. The alien woman, breathing heavily, stood beside him now, her blade trembling in her hand, her eyes never leaving his face. "Who are you?" she whispered. But the old man did not answer. His gaze was fixed on the darkness beyond the flames, his hands gripping the staff tightly. He knew the night was far from over. The hidden enemy had revealed itself, and this was only the beginning of a storm that would not end quietly. The flames of the raid still burned in the colony. Black smoke curled into the alien sky. The screams of the night had quieted, but the ground still smelled of blood and ash. The old man stood in the center of the broken street, the heavy staff still in his hands, his chest rising and falling, his eyes sharp with fire. Around him the colony stared in silence. No one could believe what they had seen. The forgotten human had fought like a warrior, not like a man of age, but like someone who carried battles carved into his very bones. The raiders had pulled back for now, waiting in the shadows beyond the walls, but their threat still lingered. Their eyes still watched. Everyone knew they would return, stronger, hungrier, determined. And yet in that moment all eyes were on the old man. Whispers moved like wind through the crowd. He should not be alive. No human moves like that anymore. Is he cursed or chosen? The alien woman, her silver hair matted with blood and smoke, stepped closer, her blade still in her hand but her eyes fixed on him. She had fought beside many warriors in her life. She had led soldiers and faced countless enemies, but never had she seen an old man move like this. Never had she felt her heart pound with both fear and awe at the same time. She whispered loud enough for him to hear. "You saved me. Why?" The old man did not answer at first. His grip on the staff was tight, his eyes were far away, as if he was staring at ghosts only he could see. Finally he spoke, his voice low and heavy. "Because I have buried too many already." The words struck her and the crowd fell silent again. No one mocked him now. No one dared to laugh. The image of him striking down the raiders burned too bright in their minds, and yet fear lingered. Fear of what he was. Fear of what he could become. A cry broke the silence. Another attack. Raiders stormed a smaller street. Women and children trapped inside. The guards hesitated, too few, too broken from the first assault. The alien woman turned quickly, ready to run, but she saw the old man step forward again. His staff firm, his face calm but filled with iron. "Stay," he said to her. "This is my fight." She shook her head fiercely. "No, you will die." But he only looked at her, his eyes steady. Better to die standing than live forgotten. Before she could stop him, he walked into the street where the raiders had gathered. The crowd followed at a distance, fear and hope battling inside them. The children clung to their mothers, the guards tightened their spears but did not step ahead. All of them waited to see what the old man would do. The raiders laughed when they saw him. Their leader, taller than the rest, with jagged armor and cruel eyes, stepped forward, his voice rough like stone breaking. "So the ghost shows himself again? I thought you were dead, human, but no matter. Tonight I will finish the job your enemies began long ago." The old man's eyes narrowed. Memories of battlefields filled his mind. He had faced enemies like this before, arrogant, cruel, thinking humans were weak, and each time he had proven them wrong. His voice carried through the smoke, calm but sharp. "If you want me, then you must pass through me, but you will not touch them." He pointed his staff toward the frightened children behind him. The choice was made. He could have hidden in his hut again. He could have pretended to be nothing, but he had stepped forward, not for himself, but for the colony that hated him, for the children that threw stones at him, and for the alien woman who had seen through his silence. He had chosen to stand, and the colony held its breath to witness it. The fight was brutal. The raiders charged, but the old man's movements were sharp. Every strike of his staff landed with purpose. Each blow sent enemies staggering back. He moved not with youth but with experience, with the memory of countless battles guiding his hands. Blood spilled, cries echoed, and one by one the raiders fell. The leader's cruel laugh turned into rage. His blade clashed against the old man's staff. Sparks lit the air, each strike heavier than the last. The old man's arms trembled, but his eyes never wavered. He would not give up, not now, not when he had chosen his path. The alien woman rushed forward to stand beside him, her blade cutting down those who tried to circle him. Together they fought, old strength and new fire side by side, and the crowd that watched could not look away. They saw something greater than survival. They saw a choice, a forgotten man refusing to remain forgotten, a woman refusing to let him stand alone. Their union in battle was something the colony had never witnessed before. At last, the raider leader fell with a roar, his weapon clattering to the ground, his body broken under the force of the human's strike. Silence followed. The remaining raiders pulled back again, dragging their dead with them, their eyes wide with fear, for the ghost they had come to kill had risen again, and he was not done. The colony erupted in cries, some of fear, some of awe, but all filled with disbelief. The old man stood with his staff bloodied but unbroken, his chest heaving, his choice clear. He had stepped out of the shadows, and nothing would ever push him back again. The alien woman looked at him, her eyes shining in the firelight, her voice soft but strong. "You are not what they think you are. And tonight, they have seen it with their own eyes." The old man's lips curved into the faintest smile. Tired but alive. "I am only what I must be," he whispered. But deep inside he knew the truth. This was only the beginning. The colony did not sleep that night. Fire still glowed in the streets. Smoke clung to the air, and fear walked from hut to hut like a silent thief. Yet among all the fear there was also something new, something sharp, something dangerous, whispers. Whispers not of mockery, but of questions. How can he fight like that? Is he truly human? What has the woman seen in him? The old man heard those whispers as he limped back to his hut. His staff still stained, his body aching, his heart heavy, but his eyes alive in a way they had not been for years. The alien woman followed him closely, her cloak torn, her silver hair wild, her blade dripping. She did not speak until he entered his hut, and when she did, her voice was steady. You cannot hide anymore. They have seen you. The old man lowered himself onto the wooden chair, his hands trembling as he set the staff down beside him. I never wanted them to see, he whispered. I only wanted to fade away. She stepped closer, her gaze sharp. You are not meant to fade. You are meant to lead. His eyes lifted to hers, weary yet burning. Those days are gone, woman. I buried them long ago. But she shook her head, her voice stronger now. No, you buried nothing, you only locked it away. But tonight you opened the door, and now the truth must be spoken. The old man said nothing. His fingers brushed the old folded uniform in the corner, and the woman's eyes followed. Narrowing, she walked to it, lifted it gently. The cloth torn and faded, but the markings still clear. Human military. A commander's insignia etched faintly on the shoulder. Her voice dropped low. So the whispers were true. You were one of them. His chest tightened. Memories surged like waves. He saw his men standing in line, their faces young and full of trust. He heard the thunder of war, the orders he gave, the promises he could not keep. Tears pressed behind his eyes. His voice cracked. I was more than one of them. I was the last commander of the human fleet. When the wars ended, there was nothing left. No soldiers, no ships, only me, the alien woman's breath caught. Her eyes widened with shock. She looked at him not with pity now, but with awe. You were the ghost they spoke of. The one who vanished, the one the raiders still fear. He closed his eyes, his voice breaking. Fear? No, they remember because I failed. I lost everything, my men, my people, my world. I should have died with them, but fate left me here in silence. Forgotten. For a long moment the hut was silent except for the crackle of the candle. The woman held the uniform against her chest, her expression unreadable. Then she spoke softly but firmly. You did not fail, you survived. And survival is not weakness, it is strength. You were not left here to fade. You were left here to rise again when the galaxy needed you. The old man's hands shook. He wanted to argue. He wanted to push her words away, but deep inside he knew. The way the raiders had looked at him, the way the colony had stared, the way his heart had burned when he lifted the staff. His past had not died. It had only slept, and now it had awakened. Outside, the colony gathered. The council called for answers. The people demanded truth. Torches lit the night as they shouted, Who is he? What is he? The woman stepped out first, the uniform in her hands, her voice cutting through the crowd. He is not a shadow, he is not a beggar. He is the last commander of humankind. The man the raiders still fear. The man who stood tonight when all others faltered. Gasps spread through the crowd. Fear and awe battled in their eyes. Some fell silent, some bowed their heads. Others muttered in anger, a human? Among us? We cannot trust him. But others whispered differently. Perhaps this is why she chose him. Perhaps this is the hope we need. The old man stepped forward then, his body weak but his spirit strong. He looked at them all, his voice low but clear. I am not your enemy, I am not your savior. I am only a man who remembers too much. But if you will have me, I will stand again. Not for glory, not for power, but because none of you deserve to fall as my people once did. The silence that followed was deep. Even the torches seemed to sway in respect. The alien woman looked at him, her eyes shining with something fierce, something certain. I chose you because I saw what they could not. I will stand by you, and if they call you cursed, let them. For I know you are chosen, and in that moment, the forgotten old man was forgotten no longer. His past had risen from the ashes, and the galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath, for the revelation had come, and nothing would ever be the same again. The colony stood still under the twin moons. The fires of the raid had died, but the smoke of change still hung heavy in the air. No one slept. The people gathered in the central square, their voices hushed, their eyes fixed on one figure, an old man who had once been nothing. A shadow. A joke now stood in front of them with his back straight, a staff in his hand and a fire in his eyes. Beside him stood the alien woman, silver hair flowing in the night wind, her presence fierce and unshakable. Together they looked like the past and the future standing side by side. The council elders whispered among themselves, their faces pale with doubt. A human leading us? Impossible, one muttered. He will bring ruin. Another hissed, yet others spoke differently. Did you not see him fight? Did you not hear the raiders cry his name? Fear is power, and he carries it. The voices clashed like blades, but the people waited for one answer, one decision. What would be done with the forgotten man who had chosen to stand? The alien woman raised her voice first, clear and strong. You call him cursed. You call him weak, yet when the enemy came, it was not you who saved us. It was him. You spit on him for years, but tonight he bled for you. Tonight he protected your children when you could not. Her words cut through the crowd. Heads bowed, some in shame, some in silent agreement. The old man lowered his eyes. He had never wanted glory, only peace. But fate had dragged him back into the fire, and now there was no escape. Then, to everyone's shock, the woman stepped forward. She stood beside him and took his hand, her silver hair brushing his shoulder, her voice steady. I choose him, not as a symbol, not as a tool, but as my equal, my partner, the one I will stand beside when the storms come again. The crowd erupted in gasps. No one had expected this. The woman was respected, powerful, untouchable, and yet she had chosen the one no one cared for, the one they had left to rot in silence. The old man looked at her, his heart trembling, his voice low. Why would you choose me after all I have lost? After all I have failed? She held his gaze without flinching. Because you did not fail tonight, and because I see what they do not. You are not broken, you are only waiting to rise. And I will not let you fade again. The colony's silence deepened. And then the whispers began, faster, louder. She has chosen him. A human. It cannot be. It must be fate. Some cried out in anger, others in disbelief, but many bowed their heads, unable to deny what they had seen. The man who had been forgotten was now chosen, not by them, but by the one voice they respected most. The raiders beyond the walls, hearing of the night's events, hesitated to strike again. Fear coiled in their ranks, for they knew the ghost of war had returned, and he was no longer alone. He had allies now, a people who, whether they admitted it or not, were bound to him by the choice of their leader. The old man felt the weight of their eyes, the weight of history itself pressing down on his shoulders. He could have stepped back, he could have refused, but as he looked at the woman beside him, her hand holding his, her eyes burning with certainty, he felt something he had not felt in many years. Hope, fragile yet alive. Hope that perhaps his life was not just a shadow, but a spark that could light the dark again. He lifted his staff high. His voice carried through the square, strong despite his age. I am no savior, I am no god. I am only a man. But I will not walk away from those who stand beside me. If you will have me, I will fight for you, I will guide you, not because I am chosen, but because no one deserves to be left forgotten. The words rolled through the crowd like thunder. Many bowed, many wept quietly, and even those who doubted could not ignore the truth. The forgotten old man had become something greater than they had ever imagined. The alien woman had not lifted him out of pity. She had lifted him because she saw in him what they could not. A warrior's soul, unbroken by time. As dawn broke, painting the alien sky in red and gold, the colony gathered once more, not to mock him, not to spit at him, but to listen. And for the first time in years, the old man did not walk alone. The woman stood by his side, her choice binding them together, and the whispers that had once cursed his name now spoke of something else, something the galaxy itself would one day hear. The human had risen again, and the alien woman had chosen him, and that union would change everything.